What's going on? We back. Motor City Sports Talk family. We in the building talking about some Detroit Lions, man. I can't wait till the season gets started. I can't wait till training camp get to popping off. They get to hitting the pads. And most definitely appreciate everybody for subscribing, hitting the bell icon so you know we upload and go live. And also don't forget to share the videos as well. It's your boy CJ Goodfella. We into training camp get to rolling around. We still gonna find creative ways to drop videos and drop heat. And we're going to go back and look at some of the past draft classes for the Detroit Lions. This is the 2009 draft class. I believe Mayhew, it was his first official draft class that he picked himself along with Tom Lewine. Tom Lewine was more the guy that hashed out the contracts side of the GM, and Mayhew was the one general manager that picked the talent. We had just came off an 0-16 season. We had the #1 overall pick. Matt Millen had just been kicked out. Rob Marinelli had just been kicked out, and Martin Mayhew was turning over a new leaf. You know, he was starting something new. But what a lot of people don't know is he was part of Matt Millen's cabinet. He was part of his team. You know, in that Sports Illustrated article we covered a couple months ago, where Matt Millen is practically dying. He needs a heart transplant. He admitted to some bad draft decisions, and he was going to pick DeMarcus Ware and Andre Johnson over Charles Rogers and stuff of that nature. But people in his cabinet pushed him to go another route when he knew what the correct selection should have been. He delegated to his team, or he let his team just over get in his ear. And part of his team was Martin Mayhew and Tom Lewine, and Martin Mayhew told the Force that, that was Matt Millen. I could pick a better team. And obviously, he couldn't draft better. Looking back in hindsight, draft it was horrible, and we're gonna go through it. First overall, pick Matthew Stafford. That was a no-brainer. Mark Sanchez didn't look the part, and which had Aaron Curry in that draft, some other guys that didn't really pan out. And Stafford is the lone wolf standing out of the top 5, I believe. That's off the top of my head. But obviously, he's still here. Still people that love him. Some people that still hate him. But people forget that he walked into an 0-16 situation in an organization that was just in flux and still never really got it together. I think if he was on another franchise, I think Stafford would be recognized as a top 5 quarterback and have playoff wins and perhaps a Super Bowl win. You can't tell me if you didn't place him in Matt Ryan's position that he wouldn't ball out. And people forget we ended up with Matthew Stafford because Sam Bradford didn't want to come to the Lions, and he went back to college. He went back to Oklahoma. People forget that. He stayed a year. And ultimately, I think he got hurt, and it hurt. He got picked up #1 overall, and I'm glad that Sam Bradford went back to school because the Lions straight probably would have selected him over Stafford. And a lot of people still like Sam Bradford to this day, but he a China dog. And, Stafford looked to be a China dog early on, but what people forget is he walked into an 0-16 situation. Legitimately, he walked into an 0-16 situation. So it would take a long time to rebuild that team, man. A long time, especially with Mayhew picking picking the picks. It really didn't go well. And then they had traded back into the first round and got Brandon Pettigrew for whatever reason. I hated that pick as soon as they picked him. This was a guy that's supposed to be seen as a prototypical tight end. Even though the league was going more of a pass catcher, receiver type of tight end, the Lions try to keep it old school and go for Pettigrew and give, Stafford an all-around, all-purpose type of tight end, a blocker, and a guy that can get out there and catch, but it really never materialized for Brandon Pettigrew. He never can catch. He wasn't that good. He was a solid blocker, but it wasn't good enough to really make up for his critical drops. He made the tough catches. He dropped the easy balls, you know what I'm saying? And he wasn't fast, you know what I'm saying? He was big, and he can, box people out and get a clean, and give Stafford a clean target, but he never could really catch the ball. I didn't like him when he came from Oklahoma State. I seen the film. He was not worth trading back into the first round for, man. I think, Clay Matthews or somebody else, went around the same time he did. Terrible pick. I mean, the highlight of his career was when, in the Tennessee Titan game, he caught the ball and the defender, I think in overtime, took the ball away from him and ran the other way. Let's just keep it real. Louis Dellins, He was good. When he was on, but he was often injured. South Florida guy. He went down to Miami. Last play was 2015. So, he been done. He was just so injury prone, man. Very, very injury. But, he put his body on the line, and, he was delivering stone cold hits, man. Like really, really big hits. He was solid in coverage. He was that, that wild cowboy in the back end that you always want. But he was reckless and very, very injury prone. He came from Western Michigan, man, and a lot of people used to like Louis Delmas, man, but he was just always injured, and that's usually the narrative with Lions for some reason. Either when they produce, they often injured. When they can't produce, they just sorry. You know what I'm saying? And but and a lot of people like Delmas. The people like that second round pick. He was a missile coming out of Western Michigan. He finally got his cover skills up to point. He was picking stuff off. He was flying in the back end, but every Sunday to Sunday, you didn't know if he was going to play or not. That was the knock on him. He was one of those guys that was consistently, questionable, probable, or doubtful to play, man. So you really didn't know what you was going to get with Louis Delmas. DeAndre Levy, he had one really good year. I remember, he was a fringe guy. It was between him and Justin Durant. They was going to keep. Justin Durant walked, and the team elected to keep DeAndre Levy. And a year or two down the line, he had a very, very big year, but he was often injured. Very, very another often injured guy coming out of Wisconsin. He was a third round pick. Very, very injured. Very talented guy. Everything they seen on tape, that was a good scouting. That was a good pick by Mayhew. But it took him so long to actually grow into that position and reach his potential. By the time he reached his potential, and part of the reason he didn't reach his potential was because he was very, 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 very often injured. He was so injured all the time. He never get in there and get his reps. And when he finally clicked and had that one big year, it was over. He was injured again, and that was the story of his career. Very, very injured. Those are two good picks by Mayhew that were tore by injuries, and I'll get credit where credit is due. That was really two good picks, man. The only really bad pick that we got so far that was horrible was Brandon Pettigrew. And I don't understand what they liked in him. And I think a lot of times, to get off subject for a second, I believe a lot of times GMs fall in love with the character and the personality with a player instead of just, also mixing in the factor and looking what he brings to the table. This dude just didn't walk into this organization and he didn't walk into this organization and have great hands and golden hands. You knew his hands was questionable. The first thing you look at a tight end and where the league was going at the time and where it is now, you need that man to catch the ball. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a blocker. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a 6 offensive lineman. You want a guy that can catch the ball. You want a safety net for Matthew Stafford. And he failed on that. And they failed again with Eric Ebron seeing that he made the same mistake years later with Eric Ebron. And Ebron couldn't even block. They fell in love with the person. They fell in love with the personality. Fell in love with the athletic ability. But he had the highest drop rate coming out of college. I'm pretty sure Brandon Pettigrew had a high drop rate coming out of college. But their second selection in the third round was Derek Williams out of Penn State. He never materialized. I think he did some kick returning ability for a minute, and he was a receiver that had a couple good catches, but he never really hooked on to the team. You know what I'm saying? Penn State, he was a athletic type of guy, but he another guy that didn't hang on to the league. So out of the 5 people we talked about, only one guy still in the league, Matthew Stafford. That's it. And, contrary to people's beliefs, football players don't have a long cycle in football. You know what I'm saying? I think the average football career is like 2 or 3 years, probably not even that. You know what I'm saying? So, it's not shocking that a lot of these guys are already out the league. This was almost 10 years ago. So everybody going to have that 10-year career. And Levy just got out the league a couple years ago dealing with his grievance with the Lions about his injury and stuff of that nature when they released him. But Derek Williams, he never was a consistent contributor for my Lions fans that remember him. I remember him a bit. Sammy Hill, he was a guy that came out of Stillman College down in Alabama. I'm familiar with the area. I'm familiar with the state of Alabama. I stayed there. Actually stayed in Alabama the year the Lions went 0-16. So I really missed it until, sometime I came home from college. But, he's one of those guys, offensive lineman from the small college. A lot of people expected big things from Sammy Hill, but again, he really never materialized again, and got lost in the rotation with eventually Fairley and eventually Ndamukong Suh, and they let him walk to Tennessee. I think he last played in 2015, so he's another one that's out the league. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, 9 years ago, that's a long time. a very, very long time. And Sammy Hill was a guy that we had a lot of hope for, you know. We thought he was eventually going to catch on and be a contributor, and be a good rotational defensive tackle, you know. It really, really didn't happen like that for him, you know what I mean? But he had flash plays. Yeah, he definitely had flash plays. And for a third-round pick, it wasn't the worst pick. Like I said, a lot of these picks wasn't the worst pick, but, you know, it is what it is. And you had the running back out of TCU, Aaron Brown, you know, ran a 4.4, 6 foot, you know, but just never made no plays. You know, he played a couple years in the league and with the Miami Dolphins and Lions, and he just never caught on. Man, had all the athletic ability, but like I said, some guys, I think he was a track guy. Some guys were track guys, and some guys can be football players and have track speed, and he was just a track guy. He wasn't a football player. Did some tackle that guy, Lyndon Marsh, or so whatever it is, his name, or I forgot the guy's name right there in the picture block. He never played for the Lions. He moved on. You know what I'm saying? You know, he went straight to Miami. Then he was from Nebraska. He flaked out the league. Also, you had Zach Follett out of Cal. I believe he got injured with the Lions. He never really materialized. He was from Cal. Then you had Dan Gronowski, the tight end. He ain't really never do nothing. So overall, you don't expect a lot of late draft picks to really hit like that. You know what I'm saying? If I was picking late, I'd pick more of the defensive lineman, offensive line variety. You know, guys that had tackles that probably didn't have the feet to be tackles. I can transition them into guards or smaller school guys that had a lot of speed, and we just get them up to par with the football skills. I'll just draft guys that had a lot of potential or positional changing guys. I can change, like tackles to guards or stuff of that nature, or big tackles that just need more coaching. That's what I would go for in the later rounds, or guys that had electric speed or stuff of that nature. I really wouldn't go, for certain positions that I know just it ain't gonna happen. But overall, this draft class was a failure by Martin Mayhew. I mean, it wasn't a failure by a talent standpoint because I believe he got the Louis Delmas pick right. I mean, I don't know who he picked him over in. I like the DeAndre Levy pick. I like the Matthew Stafford pick. You know what I'm saying? The Sammy Hill pick wasn't that bad. And I think, in my opinion, out the first 6 picks, I believe the only glaring picks he legitimately got wrong, not looking back at the draft, but looking how their career, panned out rather than who he picked them over. I think Pettigrew was a terrible pick, and Derek Williams, that was a terrible pick, a third-round pick. I think other than that, I like Louis Delmas when he was here and healthy. I like DeAndre Levy. Sammy Hill was straight. Wasn't a bad, third-round or fourth-round pick. That was for Sammy Hill. But the bad picks, obviously was Brandon Pettigrew, Derek Williams. And then the bottom 4, I won't even count them. They was way later in the draft, and, that's a crapshoot. But overall, it's a solid C+ draft class in my opinion. Injuries destroyed this draft class for sure. Injuries destroyed it, man. Really did. With Levy and Delmas, just getting injured, but Stafford carries the day. And they got that pick right. But Motor City Sports Talk, it's your boy CJ Goodfella. Definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. We're gonna get some more reviews and draft from the blast classes, man. So hopefully you guys like this installment, and maybe we can come up with some more installments. Do you have any ideas as far as any installments y'all guys got? But don't forget, we on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All that information is in the description. We're gonna get to talking some college football when it heats up a little bit more, and might get some coverage to some high school football, on Friday nights or Friday afternoons, and see if you guys like that content. Any ideas or whatever you may have, you can click the Facebook link or Instagram or Twitter link and DM me there. If you got a video request, go ahead and DM me there. Most definitely appreciate it. Y'all know what it is. Thank you, and keep subscribed.